My name is Katie Skelly. I'm a cartoonist here in Brooklyn, New York. I just did a book with Fantagraphics called My Pretty Vampire. I've been a cartoonist for about 10 years, pretty much since I moved to New York in 2008. I would say the common threads through my work are eroticism, I would say sort of darker subject matter. I would say an interest in genre, particularly B-movies, that sort of fodder. And most of my stories, I think actually all of my stories follow women. I'm really interested in women protagonists who take charge, who live their lives unapologetically, who do what they want, they pursue careers, they pursue sort of criminal interests. Basically, they just do what they want to do, and sometimes they get away with it, and sometimes they don't. I would say they're definitely outsiders, yeah, which, you know, I think those are the characters that are interesting to read, and sometimes I feel like an outsider in comics, so I kind of like project a lot onto them. I like working with darker material, and a lot of the time I'm not super interested in what the audience thinks, so I'd rather talk about the things that are important to me, and thankfully people have latched onto those things. My first published book was Nurse Nurse, which came out in 2012 from Sparkplug Books. It was a science fiction about nurses in outer space, and I was playing with a lot of different ideas in it. I really wanted to try to make like my own version of Barbarella. I wanted to, you know, try working with like a team, working with like a ensemble cast and seeing what kind of stuff that they could get into. But as I wrote it, I really came to just focus on one of the characters, the lead nurse, Gemma. And so that sort of influenced my style going forward, just looking at one or two characters per story, not really getting super into a whole bunch of characters. It didn't look like anything else that was coming out, and I think that, you know, a younger generation could get into it because it looked like manga. Like I was looking at influences from Tezuka to like anime and, you know, Tatsumi and all this different stuff. And so I think people found a certain, you know, like recognizable quality to it, even though it was something that looked totally different. My second book was Operation Margarine, which was published by House Books in 2014. And that was a sort of shorter work than Nurse Nurse, but it was still in black and white. But it's a sort of biker B-movie kind of story, looking a lot at stuff like Russ Meyer and Faster Pussycat Kill Kill. It's a story about a girl who runs away from her sort of society life and goes to the desert with a friend she makes on the fly, and, you know, steals motorcycles and sort of gets into fights and, you know, stirs shit up. My Pretty Vampire is my newest comic. It's my first big color comic. Try to work with a pretty simple palette on it, but I think it gets a little bit crazy, which is cool. It's the story of a vampire who's a teenager named Clover, and she's being kept by her brother Marcel in a castle because he's worried about her getting out and wreaking havoc, but that's exactly what she does. And it references a lot of like 70s horror that I love, Jean Roland and Jess Franco. So it's really just looking at a ton of influences that I love. I think the disconnect between the color and the style and the subject matter, it's definitely intentional. I think it's almost like a spoonful of sugar sort of thing, where it's easier to take on this sort of subject matter if you can approach it in almost like a cute, endearing way. And I really enjoy that shock in readers too, where they go in expecting it to be this one type of story because it's drawn this particular sort of cute way, and then it becomes something totally different. I think that that's really cool. I've always been interested in international comics, particularly manga from the 60s and 70s, and also Belgique comics like Guy Pellart and Guido Crepax from Italy. And so with my work, I really like to take it back to, you know, simple line art, very simple sort of but explosive color, and something that's a little bit easier on the eye, easier to navigate. the common thread that I keep coming back to in, the 3 large works that I did and the shorter comics that I've been doing has been Defiance. I'm interested in characters that have sort of been living a routine and break away from it, because I'm interested in sort of like the idea of escaping ideology and escaping good behavior, and just sort of escaping like the constraints of society. And I don't think that always has to be something that has to be like extremely transgressive or, necessarily even challenging to readers. Sometimes it's like you just want to present this idea in a fun way and you want to make, art around it that's beautiful, because I think that experience can be beautiful. Art was always something that was very suspicious because you didn't know what sort of ideas you were going to get from it. And growing up Catholic, there's this idea that like, if you see so many explicit images, like they're burned into your brain forever, they're going to affect you. And so, at least that's how they put it in my school. I feel like I keep returning to this subject matter as a way of almost like exercising that idea from my brain. Like, this isn't inherently bad or inherently good, it just kind of is what it is. There's no morality to images, I don't think. It's a way of just kind of pushing myself and not being afraid of taboos and just sort of saying, giving the finger to that life. Like to see more fun comics on shelves, honestly. I'd like to see things that are like unafraid to be uninhibited. I think we're in this period of irony right now that just really sucks. I don't like to see people do genre work and it's all like wink wink, nod nod, like isn't this ridiculous? It's like, I don't like that. Like, I think you should do whatever you want to do and be sincere about it. So I would like to see that. I think stuff that's sexy is always good. Like just sexy and Italian. That's what I want to see, I think. You don't have to be Italian. It helps.
Are you Italian?
Yes, I'm half Italian, I think.
Thank you for watching Beyond the Longbox.
If you enjoyed the show and would like to see more, please hit subscribe and we'll continue to bring you the best in comics.
Worship me!